all seeing the wonderful, lovely faces of our teachers, employees here at Granite. We would like to offer, if anybody is interested, we did set up the overflow room, so if somebody needs to sit down, there is some room over there, and the screens are down, so you're able to participate and watch there. We might, if the fire marshal shows up, I'm just warning you, we may have to require you to go over there, but until then, we'll just, if you're okay standing, thank you for being here. It is May 5th, 2026. The time is 7:05. I'd like to get started by indicating who's here. Julie?
Julie Jackson. Kim Chandler. Chris Wynn. Karen Winder.
Todd Hopper.
Ben Worsley.
Connie Burgess. I turned it off.
And Nicole McDermott. We'd like to first start by indicating or welcoming those people who are here and introducing them. We have PTA people. Could you please stand and be recognized? Will you guys introduce yourselves for anybody who doesn't know you?
Liz Shillham, Region 5 Chair. Amy Warren, Granger Council President. Holly Mesa, Cypress Council President. Kylie Jones, Region 5 Reflections Advisor.
Thank you for being here. We have GEA leadership. If the GEA leadership will stand and be recognized. Michelle, did you want to introduce yourself and anyone else?
Sorry, Michelle Jones, proud GEA president.
Thank you. All right. Our Granite office professionals. Gaina.
Breeze, president.
Thanks for being here, Gaina. Middle managers. Do we have any of our middle managers here? Gespa. Did I see anybody? Okay. Our Granite Education Foundation. Do we have any? Thank you, JD, for being here. We do have some elected officials here. Senator Weiler. Senator Weiler. Thank you for being here, Senator. And any administrators or principals that are here, can you please stand and be recognized as well? All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Pledge of Allegiance and invite Valerie Bergera up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I'm going to invite Ann Kane to come over and introduce the reverends from Rosecrest, and board members and superintendent CU are welcome to go down, and or we can stay up here too.
Either way, you might want to come down, but it is a 3D experience. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for the invitation. Rosecrest. All right. Hey, find your space. You can do it. All right. Welcome, everybody. I am Principal Ann Kane, and I'm honored to be the principal at Rosecrest Elementary, and I'd like to introduce you to our second graders. We have All right. We have a wonderful partnership with Tanner Dance from the University of Utah. They have been at Rosecrest for 3 years. They are in 12 Granite School District schools and over 40 schools statewide. So Tanner Dance is an amazing partner. They come in and they work with the teachers on arts integration and what that looks like depending on what the teachers are teaching and the students are learning. And they involve kinesthetic learning. We learn best when we're moving, right? And so they come in and work with the teachers, and you are going to experience some art integration through science and movement. I would like to introduce you, Mr. Kevin will be our pianist tonight. And Miss Lydia will be taking us on an adventure.
Wow, we are super excited to get to perform this for all of you. We've been working on these dances for about a month now, and at the end of every semester, the students get a chance to perform these dances, and we call it informants, and they get to perform for the community, their parents, and their peers. Dancers, are you ready? Okay, find your starting shape. Our dances today are about landforms, weathering, and erosion. The first landform we learned about is mountains. Mountains, go. We've also learned about valleys. And also canyons. We know that canyons start low on their edges, but when they get closer and closer to the center, they get taller and taller and taller until they reach their peak. We've learned that valleys are the opposite of mountains because they start low in the middle, but then they get taller and taller and taller as they reach the edges. Canyons aren't really like mountains or valleys because they have sharp drops in elevation to the bottom. At the bottom of a canyon, we might see something like a river. Our river can twist and turn all around. We've also been learning about weathering and erosion. Weathering happens when rocks break down. It can look like crumbling. Or it can look like melting. It can even look like breaking. We know that weathering can sometimes happen in big chunks. Group 1, go. Or it can happen bit by bit. 2, go. And switch. And switch. Erosion is what happens when all these little pieces move somewhere else. It can move in really linear and straight pathways. Erosion can move in curvy, undefined pathways. We know that erosion might happen really slowly. Or it can happen quickly and all at once. One real-life example of weathering and erosion is like rocks that get worn away by water over time. We've learned that both weathering and erosion happen every day and continue to shape the world around us. Find
Take a bow. Take a bow. Good job. Yeah. Hey, give high five.
We appreciate Rosecrest for being here. Thank you for the teachers who've worked with them, but also parents, will you stand and be recognized as well? Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, parents, for being here. Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Bye. See you tomorrow. I'll be back to see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Yay, I know. Thanks, you too. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. That was perfect. That was perfect. Thank you. I will be in touch. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Thanks. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm assuming I was missed. I'm assuming I were. We missed you. Great. See you. Thank you for coming.
All right, we're going to go ahead and continue. We'd like you guys to, we're glad that you're here again, but we need it to be quiet so we can continue our business. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, which is our Good News Minute, and allow each board member just a minute to tell of the wonderful things that are happening and what they've been able to do. Julie, let's go ahead and start with you.
On Friday, I got to go with the PTA and meet the greatest kid ever. His name is Jet, and we show up at his house because we're going to deliver him the news that he has won first place in nationals in elementary 4 through 6 category. Accessible arts, and he is in the entire nation, and he's going to earn $200, which had to go to college, and that was a real bummer. But we met him at his house, and his family deals with hearing loss, and this kid was just so excited, and I just love seeing that we give opportunities to all kinds of people and all kinds of circumstances, and seeing him shine, it just, these things always make me just love public education. So good job, Jet. He's coming in June.
Thanks, Julie. Go ahead, Kim.
Thank you. There are a couple of fun happenings I wanted to share with you this month. First, I wanted to highlight Miss Spicer's kindergarten class over at Armstrong Elementary. I was able to hear from Miss Spicer about a project that her students completed to repair mud patches on their playground. So the kids were apparently getting tired of getting dirty during recess and getting muddy. And so these cute little kids decided they were going to use the greenhouse at their school, grow some grass, grow some sod, and then go lay it down over the mud. And I had to go there in person. I went there in person to see this new patch of sod that's been there, and it's all cordoned off, and they have their little handmade sign saying, please keep off the grass. It's just the cutest thing and just a really fun idea, so I had to share that with you. Also, Ms. Stegel's 7th and 8th graders over at Kennedy Junior High, I really wanted to give these students a shout out. In talking to Ms. Stegel, she explained how her students have a class project that they're working on that requires a lot of illustrating, and that this was super time-consuming work that could easily be done with an Adobe AI tool that was readily available. But I was really pleasantly surprised to hear these students went to their teacher and they came to her and said, we do not want to use AI. They flatly refused. And so instead of using AI, they opted to do all the work by hand. And I saw some of their illustrations. They're amazing. But it's taking a lot longer. They knew it would. They didn't care. They said, we are not using tech. We are doing this ourselves. And I just thought that was really amazing. I wanted to applaud those kids. So if any of them are listening or hear this message, that was awesome. Good for you. And don't give in to the ease of having AI do your work for you. It will rob you of opportunities to grow. So really good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. Connie?
I was able to attend Plymouth Elementary, and they put on Lion King, the junior part, and the effort that parents and teachers and everyone that went in, and then they used many of the children. So I just say thanks to all the teachers and everything that include the students in that drama plays. I also went and was able to see the LIA, the Latinos in Action. The seniors at Hunter High have TED Talks, so they have the opportunity of doing research and put on the screen what they had learned, and just an awesome opportunity. So I appreciated what the LIA is doing for the students, as well as what all of the schools that have an LIA team do to help them grow.
Thanks, Connie. Chris?
Okay, I just want to highlight a couple of my schools, some fun things going on. I want to thank Megan Stewart at Pleasant Green Elementary. She invited me. Their media center had a remodel. And what I loved about this remodel is they used our carpentry shop to make books on the shelf more accessible to the kids. I don't know if you'd been in Pleasant Green's media center before, but some of the books were harder to access for the kids, and they just did a remodel. But what I love is we did it in-house. And so I think that is such a great, those kids were so excited. They got a free book that night. They got a little aquarium. It was under the sea themed. And it was so much fun to see them get so excited about reading. And I loved it so much. So that was one thing. The other, I also went to the Hunter High TED Talks for our Latinos in Action group. Lizzie Anderson invited us. And the funny thing about that was they could pick any topic. And so one of the students, I won't name, but he was adorable. He did Five Nights at Freddy's, and I don't know if you know what that is, but neither do I still after that TED Talk. I'm more confused than when before I saw that TED Talk, but it was amazing all the information he had. And so I challenged that student to use it for good and use it in all the subjects. The last thing I want to highlight is when Jen Bodell asked you to go along with her to do something fun, you say yes, and then you find out what it is after. And I loved what I got to do with May and Jen. They had me interview a new superintendent. Now, it's not a superintendent for our whole district. It is a junior high student superintendent who will shadow our superintendent for the day. And can I just tell you, I am so impressed. We interviewed Eddie, Holland, and William from 3 totally different junior highs, and I know why Nicole McDermott loves junior high kids now. I was blown away by these 3 students. They had interesting things to say. They had recommendations of what we can do in our schools, and they were amazing. And I have a whole new outlook on our junior high students because of just what they told us about their schools and about what they see as issues and what they could do as superintendent. So they might be challenging you for your job one day, Ben, just so you know. But they were fantastic, and I loved that opportunity. And that's all I have.
Another convert. Thank you. Go ahead, Karen.
All right, the highlight of the month for me was attending the Foundation's Excel Award dinner. And so J.D. Talbot is here. You guys all know how amazing he is. He deserves every applause we've already given him tonight. But the amount of effort it goes into the entire Excel Award winner program, not just the dinner. And we have a lot of teachers here in this room. I'm sure y'all are fabulous. Thanks for being here. But the Excel Award, I mean, it's amazing how they have to narrow it down to 9 teachers in our whole district out of hundreds and hundreds of nominations. Am I right, JD? Hundreds, right? And then 1 outstanding principal, administrator of the year. I was fortunate in my precinct 6, to have 3 of the 10 winners. And for those 30% for one board member, I was like, woohoo! And we celebrate all of our winners, of course, but it does hit home when they're actually from schools that you walk the halls more in and have a bit of a connection to. So shout out to Kennedy Junior, Granger High, and West Kearns Elementary. Those are the three in my area, and I was happy to celebrate them. Had the opportunity to visit some community councils, and I'm always amazed. And later on our consent agenda, we're going to be approving the land trust plans, and there's a lot of work. So I went through and read all 13 plans. I oversee 13 schools in my precinct, and it was amazing to see how a lot of similar themes, but also very different ideas. And that just represents every school community and how they go about things a little different. They know their kids, they know their faculties, and sometimes it's tweaked a little this way or that way. Sometimes the goals are broad, sometimes they're very specific, sometimes they want to hire paraeducators, sometimes it's coaches, and it just goes on to show that it's very specific. And those parent community volunteers, shout out to them for giving their input on what they feel that school needs and working in conjunction as a council. So I've been super impressed with their input as I visited different schools with what that land trust plan should look like. And last, I already mentioned West Kearns, but we are getting down to it. Our new school is coming. On the consent agenda tonight, the architect is there. And that's the first step to actually come into reality. The plans are being drawn up. So shout out to my Kearns community. West Kearns, we're going to be planning some community meetings to get feedback and bring in the community so it's as much their school as it is ours. So I'm very happy about that. Thanks.
Thanks, Karen. I too went to the LIA Hunter High School TED Talks. Always a delightful thing. I missed the 5 Nights at Freddy's. I'm sad about that. But I love that they are able to do anything that they want, anything that they feel passionate about, and that's really always a highlight. And I also want to echo what Karen said about the Excel Awards dinner and how wonderful it is to be able to celebrate educators in our district. I do want to highlight Jefferson Junior High. I was able to go visit with Dr. Dan, with Mr. Dan, is how he's known. And yes, please. Amazing things happening there. And one thing that I wanted to highlight, kind of going off of what Kim was talking about, they have moved to pen and paper, or pencil and paper for math. And the fact that they did that, and I don't know, maybe it's not attributed to that, but maybe they just have fantastic teachers, which they do. But their scores have gone through the roof. And so I am thrilled and excited to see the culture of that school. It's amazing to walk into that building and feel that culture and that comfort that they have there. Everybody knows who Mr. Dan is, and they say hi to him, and it just feels like such a good culture there in that school. And I just wanted to highlight that because I think that is something to really look at and watch Jefferson and what they're doing and celebrate them, because I think sometimes it's a school that we have it tucked over there on the edge of our district, and they really are doing amazing things there. So thank you. That is my Good News Minute, and we're going to go ahead and turn the time over to our superintendent to celebrate one of our legislators tonight.
Thank you, Board President and board members, and our wonderful audience tonight. This is something we do for everybody else's sake. We recognize certain legislators who had an impact on supporting public education in Granite School District in particular. I want to tell a story that kind of helps understand the support that we got from Senator Weiler this year. I was sitting on the floor with him. He lets me come sit on the floor with him every once in a while. It's a little sketch, but it was the second to last day of the session, so bills are just flying through. And he's the last one to vote. As a senator, they do a voice vote, so they literally go through alphabetically, and they have to call out their vote instead of using, modern technology, which is fine. What was great about it in this particular situation, he leans over to me, he's like, what do you think about this bill? And I'm not going to say what bill it was, but it was not a great bill, and it took away from local control. And I said, well, if this legislator wanted to be a school board member, they should have run for the school board. And so he votes no. And what invariably happened is when all of his colleagues saw what he was doing, they came back over and voted no, and the bill ended up dying. And I was like, oh, whoops. Sorry, not sorry. I was so very grateful. It's a story that denotes how important it is for us to engage with our legislators and always be actively. They have so many bills in front of them. It's really hard for them to pay attention and remember each and every issue or concern that their constituents might have. Senator Weiler sought our feedback out on a couple of other bills and has worked very diligently on juvenile justice reform with us and listened to our concerns and has tried to address those in previous years as well. So we wanted to recognize him and thank him for his time and service as a legislative champion for the 2026 legislative session. I hope you get one next year too. Okay, come on up.
Thank you, Senator.
I didn't know that my neighbor, Jessica Dunn, was going to invite all the teachers here for me tonight. So thank you, Jessica. And she did tell me to tell you to give the teachers whatever they want. So thank you very much.
Can you come back, Senator? I have something else I'd like to share.
Scan the Education Appropriations Committee. Okay. We're going to go ahead and invite JD Talbot up to do our Excel Award winner recipients.
All right, good evening, board, superintendent, members of the superintendency. It's my honor to be here as the ritual has it in May to recognize this year's Excel winners. We're super excited to have most, if not all of them here tonight. Just a little bit about Excel. Karen teed this up perfectly for me with her beautiful explanation, but this year we had nearly 1,300 nominations of teachers in this district. And as you know, we have amazing, amazing educators here. And through a application and observation process, we narrowed it down to these 9 teachers and this 1 administrator that we're going to recognize here tonight. If we can hold applause till the end, we'll get them all up here and then we'll get them together. But if I say your name, come on up, shake the board members' hands, and then we'll get a big group photo. So we have Kathy Affleck from Skyline High School, Patricia Ethington from the GTI, Annalisa Glad from Fox Hills Elementary, Carly Holmes from Cottonwood Elementary, Joe Hunter from Cypress High School, Natalie Nelson from Kearns High School, Megan Nestel from Kennedy Junior High, Andrew Steris from Granger High School, Derek Tate from Churchill Junior High, and last but not least, our admin winner, Kyle Chaufin from West Kearns Elementary. Let's give it up for all these educators. And if you had the opportunity to attend the Excel Evening of Honors, you heard loud and clear from these educators that they couldn't do it without their support system. So I'd like their families or colleagues, if they're here, to stand and let's acknowledge all their support that they have when they get home. thank you all.
Thank you. We're going to invite Ann Reese to come up.
Hello. President McDermott, board members, Superintendent Horsley, and members of the executive leadership team. 13 years ago, a young artist in training, trained in painting and drawing, walked into an interview at Hunter High. He quickly realized the job was not for a painter, it was for a master of ceramics. He had almost no experience, but his mentors saw a spark and took a risk. That summer, he wasn't just a teacher, he was a student in a backyard pottery studio, desperately trying to stay 1 week ahead of his own lesson plans. He learned early on that we are all capable of far more than we realize, and for over a decade, he has spent every single day proving that truth to the students of Hunter High. In his classroom, there is a legendary assignment known as Big Pots. Most students like to play it safe, sticking to what's comfortable, maybe 6 or 8 inches tall. But he demands 16 inches. He demands the impossible. When his students say, "Mr. Frampton, you can't be serious," he doesn't just give them a pep talk, he gives them scaffolding. He shows them the way. He lets them struggle just enough to find their own grit, but never enough to lose their heart. The results? Over the last 5 years, he's maintained a staggering 100% pass rate on the AP Studio Art portfolio. I think that's a round of applause right there. But the true masterpiece isn't the 30-inch clay vessel, it's the student who walks out of his room knowing they can do things they never thought possible. His impact doesn't stop at the classroom door. He looked at Hunter High, a school with a proud legacy of athletics, and saw an opportunity to make arts the heartbeat of the community. He teaches us that improvement doesn't come in giant leaps, it comes in inches. It comes in clay, and it comes in showing up. Please join me in honoring a man who builds more than pots, he builds people, our 2026 Granite Teacher of the Year, Mr. Rock Frampton.
That's what you get for coming, Jen. Senior contract. It's not his contract. Can your family stand up, or can we recognize the families of?
This is my wife and my mom.
Oh, there we go. I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege because I do want to recognize that it is Teacher Appreciation Week, and it was wonderful to be able to express our appreciation to these Excel winners and our Teacher of the Year. But we have a room full of teachers, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize the impact that you have on our students and our communities. We really appreciate it, and I know thanks is not enough, but I hope you're getting spoiled this week, or that you got spoiled before at some point, and if you didn't, please let me know and I'll bring you a cookie. But I do want to tell you thank you. It's from the bottom of our hearts, and there's no tired like May tired, right? Sorry, because I'm feeling it too. But thank you, and keep going. You guys only, what, 17 more days? So thank you. We are gonna, excuse me, move on to our patron participation. We do have 10 people signed up, and just as a reminder before we start that, I want to remind those who have signed up that they will have 3 minutes to speak, and to please be mindful of the timer. We are limited to 30 minutes total for open public comment. The public may sign up to share public comment at graniteschools.org/board/public comment. Once your name is called, please come forward, state your name clearly into the microphone. All comments are recorded, so please speak clearly into the microphone, which means some of you may have to slouch down. Once the timer expires, we ask that you promptly return to your seat. Comments may express support or dissent for regulatory actions. However, public comment is not the appropriate forum for personal complaints or for attacking or defaming individuals. Doing so is a direct violation of our policy, and you will be asked to stop immediately and return to your seat. If you have a personal concern, please contact a member of the administration or put your concerns in writing to the board. Please remember that children may hear your comments. Be thoughtful and professional. Keep your comments appropriate for a general audience. The board is here to listen during your public comment, but we are not able to respond to any comments or questions that you may have. A member of the administration may follow up with you later if needed. With that, we'd like to invite first Margarita Ruiz, and then Cameron Brewer will be on deck. So, Margarita.
Hello, my name is Margarita Ruiz, and I work with the multilingual students this year here in Granite, and I'm proud to serve in such a diverse community and alongside all these amazing, caring teachers and staff. I'm here today because of a heavy sense of fear that has settled over our community this last year with the increase of ICE enforcement and the new detention facility that has been purchased just 10 minutes within our boundaries. Our community is being targeted and they feel under siege. I have experienced parents who have hesitant to reach out for services, and some even express their uncertainty to drop off their students to school. This is a safety concern and also directly impacting our declining attendance. I know the district cares, and I know that they've sent out an initial response last year, and we appreciate that. However, there have been no updates or improvements on communication. We are falling short in maintaining the trust with our families and are causing confusion within staff. So this is why I'm here to ask that we adopt our already existing protocols to protect students and families. First, I ask that we add time-sensitive alerts for families whenever we see nearby activity of ICE near our campuses so that they can arrange to contact their emergency contacts for safe transportation. ICE vehicles have been already spotted across the street from several of our campuses this year, so we need to share this vital information so that parents can make timely decision. Also, I ask that we ensure that I hope this never happens, but if there is a situation that an ICE officer does enter our building, that we do our protocol for hold and secure so that students can all be remained in their classrooms and feel safe to continue learning. Imagine a situation where an ICE officer were to come into the office, which from what I understand in the current policy is listed as an instruction as they await to be attended by an administrator. But offices are spaces where families go in, students go in to receive services, to ask for help, to get guidance. So I can only imagine the fear that that would incite in a student or family that they were seeing that and they were not promptly communicated, which is why I feel that the secure and the hold would be helpful in that situation. And then thirdly, I ask that we provide more specific training for these procedures for all of our staff. I know that there has been already an email, like I said, but I have spoken to several staff members where there is confusion of exactly what we would do and what would conspire and what exactly we can share with their students. We need more than just an email. We need training, just like we do with any other procedure for safety concerns in our schools. The more transparent that we can be with our procedures, the greater sense of security we can provide. Creating a safe learning environment, I know, is already a top priority for Granite District. So we have a duty to ensure that all students can focus on their education without fear. I ask that you work to try to implement these procedures as we can start our new year next year. Thank you so much for your time.
Cameron Brewer is next, and then on deck, Margaret Perea.
You guys weren't kidding about leaning down.
Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your service. I appreciate it. This year has been a pretty challenging year. This is my 9th year teaching special ed in the Granite School District, and I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what that means. This reflection came to a head when I heard about the special education hiring freeze due to budget cuts. This highlighted for me what it feels like is a disconnect between the district level decision making and the day-to-day realities of my role as a special educator. Special educators in this district, I don't know, it's it feels like there's little support when it comes to student behavior in the classroom, like when kids make violent threats or actually hit us. In my tenure at Granite School District, I've had students threaten to kill my family, chest butt me, curse me out, get in my face, and more. At my school this year, I've had students who have harmed aides in our classrooms and teachers, only to have that kid return either later that day to the classroom or the next day. There's no escape from these kids who are rude, violent, or cruel, and behaviors are on the rise. There's more going on, and I've had to talk many of my peers out of quitting and have had to take away their difficult cases so that they can, not leave me in a lurch. Speaking of caseloads, oftentimes they're unmanageable. My current caseload on paper is 34. However, that's a tiny snapshot of what my job is and how many students I actually try to serve. If you follow what actually happens on the caseload continuously, 50 kids have gone through my caseload. That's paperwork, that's trying to manage timelines, scheduling, calling parents, all kinds of stuff. And that churn increases the stress of a job that's already hard. And if we were to have lost the teacher like initially was posited by the budget cuts, that would have meant 5 more kids being added to my caseload. I routinely come early. I stay late to try and get stuff done. If you wanted to increase the contract time, you need probably about 10 hours in order to make it work in a way that would allow me to serve the students. And I mean, there's more. I test kids. Routinely, my preps are taken up with meetings. I don't know. I just feel like people just need to know that there's a lot going on. Oh man, 26, I have so much to say. Let's just leave you with the last thing. Granted, we built this brand new, beautiful building, and you guys know that our classrooms were very small at the beginning, mine in particular. I'm still in that room with 12 kids. It's 300 square feet. I am now having to field questions from my students asking me, why am I in such a small room? And the reason why it matters isn't that, can I at least finish my sentence? Okay, isn't that this is a new phenomenon at Cypress High. It's that it is a continuous phenomenon, being in small classrooms with big behaviors. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Margaret. It's Margaret. Did I say your name right? Paria?
Paria, yeah.
Paria. And then Miriam Castle will be up next.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the board, and the rest of our fabulous community. My name is Maggie Paria. Some call me Margaret, but most people call me Miss Maggie. I'm a self-contained special education teacher for the Arches program at Robert Frost Elementary. And I stand before you tonight not just representing my own classroom, but as a GEA representative speaking on behalf of educators across our district. I am also a new teacher mentor, Lego League coach, and mother raising a teenage daughter with her own special needs. Over my teaching career, I have witnessed firsthand the incredible dedication of our teachers and the continually growing complexity of our students' needs. As the AR from my school, I must also speak to the needs of our general education teachers. So many teachers are feeling the profound strain, as severe behavior challenges are no longer a one-off occurrence, but have become an epidemic. Adding to the standard demands of lesson prep and grading, tonight I'm here to advocate for something that is critical, not just for educator retention, but for the fundamental success of all of our students, and that is teacher-directed planning time. To understand why this time is so vital, I invite you to step into my classroom. I teach a class of up to 12 incredible students spanning 4 grades. Even when our students share similar profiles, many of them come to my classroom as a last resort. Sometimes the experiences I may never have dreamed of or heard of. They arrive in need of highly individualized interventions, strategies that are entirely unique to them. Novel approaches that need finding and trying. Because of these diverse intensive needs, I'm not planning a lesson. I'm planning differentiating instruction, modifying curriculum, and implementing behavior strategies. But as any special educator will tell you, the curriculum only is a fraction of our day. During school hours, my time and the time of my paras is heavily driven by supporting these students. When a student is dysregulated or in crisis, everything else must stop. Currently, our scheduled planning time is roughly 45 minutes per day. However, that brief window is often absorbed by IEP meetings, de-escalating a student, or resetting a destroyed classroom. We're also managing a variety of emotional supports. When the bell rings and the buses pulls away, the real administrative mountain appears. Writing a single IEP takes an hour, even for the most experienced of us. When our 45 minutes of planning time or teacher workdays are rewarded by required trainings, IEPs, and other parent meetings, the sheer reality of supporting these student needs during contract hours, the mountain of work doesn't appear, it comes home with us. We cannot continue to fund the operational needs of this district on the unpaid evening and weekend hours of its educators. We are professionals who deeply love our students, but we are also human beings who needs to balance our families and our own self-care. Without that, burnout is no longer a possibility, it is a guarantee. One more thing I would like to add. As a special needs mom myself, I have seen firsthand the impact that a burnout teacher can have. Taking a bright, intelligent first grader to a student who needs a self-contained classroom with intensive supports. However, I've also seen the supported and resourceful teachers from Granger High School bring that student to a gen ed student, junior, who's an honor student with a 3.8 GPA, set to graduate in one of the top of her class as a gen ed student.
We appreciate it. Marion Castle and then Michelle Jones.
Hello, my name is Miriam Castle. I am a social studies teacher from Kearns High School, and I am here to speak to you tonight about what Margarita Ruiz spoke about earlier. I teach a very unique and diverse population where many of my students are either immigrants themselves or they come from immigrant families. Ever since ICE has had an increased presence in the state, I have noticed our attendance dramatically declining. I have had students personally tell me that they were not able to come to school because a loved one of theirs was picked up and they were afraid to leave their house. I had another student who previously had perfect attendance, really good grades, come to me and say that their uncle had been picked up while driving their students to school in the Granite School District. Since then, my students' cousins have not been able to go to school because they are terrified of what is going to happen to them. Regardless of immigration status, regardless of whether you were born here or somewhere else, everyone in this country and in this district deserves a free public education. That is our right. Thank you. And I do appreciate that in this district there have been protocols, but students deserve a safe place to learn. Students need to be at school. They need to be able to focus and not worry what is going to happen to their family, what is going to happen to their family members who are picking them up from school. They should not have to worry, is their family going to be home? They need a place where they can learn and focus on their academic needs and not everything that is going on outside. So I ask that there be, like Margarita said, just a clear safety plan if ICE comes near the campus, specific training for staff, and clear communication with families about policies and procedures. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Miriam. Michelle, and then Haley is on deck.
I'm Michelle Jones, the GEA president. Dear President McDermott, members of the board, and Superintendent Horsley, the Granite Education Association and Granite School District have a long history of working together through difficult issues and times of scarcity. This collaborative relationship is one of the reasons why Granite is a good place to teach. I stand before you today committed to continuing to work together. GEA is strong because we are an organized group of educators, willing to stand united to ensure our professional voice is heard. Tonight, we stand before you advocating for balance between work expectations, fair compensation, and life outside of work. GEA recognizes that this is a tight year for budgets. Between last year's property tax decertification, public education not being adequately funded at the state or federal level, a pile of unfunded mandates, and declining enrollment, we understand the weight of the decisions before you. But it is precisely during these times that the relationships between GEA and GSD are most important. When GEA and the district work together with a shared focus on student success, we make better decisions about policy, practice, and the use of limited resources. Through negotiations the last few years, we have experienced a reduction in K-2 class sizes, increased teacher-directed planning time, and have prioritized supports for students with significant behavioral needs. We do good work together. That's why we are here tonight, because we're concerned. Recently, communication during negotiations and other shared work has felt inconsistent. Agreements reached in one conversation seem to shift in the next. Work done collaboratively, like through the 8-hour workday, is being described as yielding little, when in fact it has clarified expectations and responsibilities for both educators and the district. At the same time, there appears to be inconsistency in maintaining commitments made to educators in the past, particularly around planning time and support. While these efforts are acknowledged and appreciated, they are not being consistently guaranteed moving forward, which worries us. We ask you to understand, teaching is far more than time spent in front of students. It requires thoughtful planning, analyzing student work, designing responsive instruction, collaborating with colleagues, communicating with families, and supporting specialized student needs. This work takes time, and that time directly impacts student learning. We ask that our concerns are taken seriously and given thoughtful consideration. We support the district's focus on instructional excellence, collaboration, and professional learning communities. We believe we have offered solutions that align with the goals of the district while maintaining sustainable workload for educators. If funding limits prevent expansion, we ask that the solution not be to ask educators to simply do more with less. Thank you.
Susan Malmrose.
Okay.
Go ahead, Haley.
You're fine. Good evening, members of the board and leadership. First, I want to thank you for your dedication and your hard work towards the students and the employees here at Granite School District. My name is Haley Kelly, and I am a 6th and 7th grade teacher at Kearns Junior High. I have worked in the Kearns community for my whole career. The whole 11 years I've been a teacher has been in Kearns, and I love it. I love the Kearns community. I care deeply about my students, which is why I'm here to talk about teacher workload and the reality of what it takes to do our job well. We as teachers chose this profession knowing that it would be hard work, but also because we care about the students and their successes. However, the current expectations placed on us are becoming unsustainable. On any given day, we are not only planning and delivering engaging instruction for individualized students, but also grading, analyzing data, attending meetings, communicating with families, managing behavior, and supporting students' social and emotional needs. Much of this work happens outside of contract hours, early in the morning, late into the evening, and even on the weekends and holiday breaks. The issue is not just the amount of work, it's the lack of time to do it well. When teachers are stretched too thin, instruction can suffer, feedback to students is limited, and our burnout increases. This can and does impact our students' success. We are constantly being asked to do more, but we are not being given more time. Time is one of the most valuable resources in education, and right now, it's in short supply.
I ask you to consider whether the expectations match the time we are given, and whether new initiatives are being added without removing others. If we want strong schools, we need to support the people in the classrooms. Supporting teachers means giving them the time and capacity to do their jobs effectively. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Susan is up, and then after Susan, Mitchell Atkinson.
Okay. Hi, my name is Susan Malmrose. I live just across the street in District 3, and I would like to start by saying thank you for all that the school district and all you teachers do to keep our students safe and engaged in learning. I know that public schools are often under attack, and I want you to know that I support you and I appreciate you. Schools used to be off limits for immigration enforcement, but that is no longer true, and we have seen ICE and other communities going after children as pawns to draw out their undocumented parents. Many schools have reduced attendance due to fear of ICE. A study at UCLA has shown that nationwide, 63% of high school principals have said that students from immigrant families had missed school because of immigration-related policies. 70% of public high schools were affected by heightened concern among students from immigrant families about their own well-being or their family's well-being. I'm here to urge you to take action to protect your students however you can from immigration enforcement. A Utah mother recently told journalist Nick Valencia that she saw ICE vehicles outside of school and constantly lives in fear that when she drops her kids off at school, it will be the last time that she sees them. John Arthur, a Utah educator, said, "If there's a fire, I walk my students out. If there's an earthquake, I huddle with them. If there's an active shooter, I'm prepared to shield them with my body. But if someone comes to take a child away, I don't know how not to intervene. I imagine if a child is taken, I'll be taken too, because there's no way I'm letting them go." And this uncertainty and fear is reflected in our community at large. We have seen growing regular protests about ICE activity. ICE was a major theme of walkouts throughout the district. We all care about our immigrant neighbors. ICE has been documented attempting to violate constitutional rights, specifically the 4th and 5th Amendments. And if you haven't already, it would be wise to have trainings and/or materials for your students and staff to learn about their rights. This could alleviate some of the fear and concern that they have. I support you in creating clear policies around immigration enforcement in or near schools and bus stops, and providing clear communication with families about these policies, any current risk factors, and a system to alert families of unsafe conditions. And I haven't even touched on the conditions that children are subject to when they're held by immigration enforcement. I am sorry that you have been put in the position of having to keep our students safe from potential harm by ICE, but it is imperative that you do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Mitchell Atkinson, and after Mitchell, we've got Taylor Arney.
I first want to thank the Granite Board for their public service and your commitment to our district and education. My name is Mitchell Atkinson, and I'm proud to be an educator in Granite School District and an active member of GEA. This is my 7th year teaching kindergarten in Granite at a Title I school, and I'm currently teaching at Granger Elementary in West Valley. I have seen firsthand how the educators and staff in my building work tirelessly to help our students grow academically and reach proficiency. Granger Elementary's diverse student body, with 81% of students from ethnic minority backgrounds, 75% who are economically disadvantaged, and 64% that are English language learners, is both a strength and a challenge for our staff. Strong professional learning communities at my school have directly impacted our students' academic outcomes. Last year was our 3rd year in a row of excellent growth and proficiency scores in the Math Acadience and Reading Acadience assessments in kindergarten. In fall 2024, 28% of our students entered kindergarten proficient in reading. In May 2025, 82% of our students left kindergarten on benchmark. This is a growth of 54% proficiency. In math, we had 95% of our students who made typical or above progress and 79% who scored at or above benchmark. I share these scores to highlight the power of educators who are focused on student growth through the PLC process and who have protected teacher-directed planning time and a healthy work-life balance. An effective PLC meeting requires that the team is prepared. There can't be discussions on student performance if a team member hasn't administered the assessment, entered the data into the team's spreadsheet, or analyzed their students' work. In addition to being prepared for a PLC meeting, teachers need time to plan how to intervene and reteach standards, adapt Tier 1 instruction, and provide extensions for students already showing proficiencies. All of these imperative tasks of being an effective PLC take hours of preparation time. The addition of 90 extra minutes of teacher-directed planning each week through the addition of Math Masters and library prep times has improved my team's academic outcomes and decreased our feelings of burnout. A teacher who doesn't have the time to prepare for teaching and their PLC in their at-work time will be less effective as an educator and as an active PLC participant. It is vital to the work we do each and every day that we respect educators as professionals and give them the preparation time they need. To see the academic achievement we want, prep time is a requirement, not a luxury. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Taylor, and then after that, Anthony.
Hi, thank you so much. I feel so unprepared because I put my name in to talk and then I didn't think I was going to get picked. But I feel like my name was picked because I have something to say that is important. And so my name is Taylor Arney. I am the school psychologist at both Jackling Elementary School and Granger High School. I am so privileged to work with the families I do. And things are happening in our schools, and ICE's presence is scaring our students and is tearing families apart. And I feel I am, everything that my other colleagues have said about it, I back 100%. I want to tell you some things about, as a psychologist in the building, I feel I have a unique perspective, and kids tell me things that maybe they might not tell other people. When a kid comes in my office, I tell them I have 3 rules. I say, this is a safe space, and what you say in here, I'm not going to tell anyone unless you are going to hurt yourself, you are going to hurt someone else, or someone is hurting you. Then I have to say something. And I'm asking for your help because I'm hearing over and over and over again that people are hurting our kids and their families, and it is ICE. And we have a duty to show up for our families and to support them, all of them, everybody. I have kids that are in 4th grade who are living with family friends because they got home and their parents had been taken. And they ask me, is it my fault because I saw some officers watch me walk home? Am I the reason that they're gone? And what do I say to that kid? How do I make them understand? No, and it shouldn't be this way. I have a junior who has effectively dropped out of high school because she now has to take care of her adult sister's 3 children, ages 5, 3, and 2, because her parents are on the street and her older sister has raised her and she was picked up and she's gone. She hasn't talked to her in weeks. These are real stories. It is happening, and we appreciate what you have done, and respectfully, we are asking for more. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And Anthony, is it Gallardo or Gallardo? Gallardo.
Oh, thank you so much. Very likely, yes.
Board, as a student in the Granite School District, the threat of ICE is encroachment on students like me, many of my family and many of my friends at our schools, countless immigrant friends who just disappeared, and the hate and racism that I and many like me experience on the daily in our schools is frankly unacceptable, and it really stems from the voices that are perpetuated or silenced in our school systems. As one of the many great organizers in the school-wide walkouts that happened on February 6th, previously mentioned, I was lucky to actively participate in the demonstration of our discontent with the system that we have right now, to learn and organize with other students and to have this community, against the hatred that we've seen in our schools. In the times leading up to it, during and after, people who thought oppositely did not meet us with their opinions, but rather their hatred. I go day to day in school, listening to offhanded comments, like hearing comments about calling ICE on students, about our skin color, the casual use of slurs in our schools and our hallways, and in our classes, and discriminatory comments. Because this isn't a school life that's coexistent with the inclusion and peaceful environment for everyone that we would like in our schools. Racism in our schools is a perpetuated thing that has only been allowed because of how lenient I think the school district and the school administrators are on this hatred. It's really harder to report a stranger on one derogatory comment than it is to feel the stain of that comment that it leaves in my mind as I walk through my school. Furthermore, on the walkout, when it came to the statement about the walkouts, I don't think there was a real mention about what we were asking. More broadly in solidarity against ICE, but more specifically was us fighting against the hatred and the greater protections that we want for our students in our schools. The safety of our peers. Some may say it's not a real issue in Utah, but we've seen ICE ramp up in the Valley. The warehouse, there's a new, some administrative center here. It's not to be taken lightly, and nor to have such an indifference towards what we've seen. And as a student, particularly seeing the student network built on reporting ICE sightings through social media, seeing that some of these are just right next to our schools, about less than a mile away. All that we were assured was a brief 18-second stint on how there wasn't anything schools can really do outside of school, and a statement about not having ICE at our schools. Straight into a segue on why students really shouldn't be walking out during their school, as it disrupts our learning. But I think this is really hollow, given the fact that since federal policy change in January, allowing ICE enforcement in sensitive locations, we have seen 1,000 fewer students attend at our schools. This is grave. This is dangerous. If you really cared about our students' attendance, I feel like this is a greater issue, rather than just an 18-second stint. What I'm getting out here is that the assurances about what we've seen in the past will not keep the stain and fear away from our students and their families. What I'm asking is that we strafe away from these empty promises and statements about social action and focus on curbing racism in our schools, something that I can assure you has been on the rise, given I've been in this school system my entire life. Could I finish?
Are you almost done?
Could I finish if it's fine?
Are you almost done?
Yeah, I got so hopefully there will be actions, a meeting with us from the board, hopefully, or come from the next board November 3rd, because school isn't meant for learning. The disruptions to our safe environment promised in schools only seek to harm the student bodies, because these walkouts weren't meant for skipping, nor missing on a school day. That's why we picked a Friday. That's why we picked a day that most of our schools let us leave early. That's why we picked them on assemblies. It wasn't to simply skip school. It was to show that we have this call to action, that we feel the need, students, to speak up instead of our representatives. And we hope that you will listen to us, and we hope that we will see action, please. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Anthony. I'm going to yield some time to the superintendent. I'm going to yield some time to the superintendent briefly.
I just want to thank all the individuals who signed up for public comment. There's a couple of points that clarification I'd like to make with respect to the district's quote-unquote position. And that's not to denigrate any comments that have been made tonight. They're all important. They're all from personal experience and from specific challenges that from individual life experiences. I want to introduce Doug Larson. Would you please stand? This is our general counsel for Granite School District. I want to offer him up as a resource. If you have questions or concerns about our policies, he'd be happy to step out into the hallway and set up a time for you to meet. I'm particularly interested in investigating any allegations of racism, harassment of any kind. It needs to be reported and needs to be dealt with promptly and swiftly in accordance with our policies that are in place. So there's no room for slurs. So Doug will make his way out to the hallway space. If you have questions about our policy, there's a couple things I do want to clarify. The school district and employees of the school district cannot interfere with law enforcement. We cannot legally train you on how to break the law. I regret that there are personal feelings the district needs to do more, but we are restrained by federal and state law in terms of what we can provide information on. So the guidance you received as employees and the guidance we sent out to our community members is with respect to that, how we can support our students. Federal law has made it clear that every child in the United States deserves an opportunity to come and participate safely in school. And we have not seen any ICE activity on school property. I recognize there have been certain circumstances that have been reported to us off of school property, but neither in Granite School District, in my coordination with other superintendents across the state and the nation, has any ICE activity occurred on school property thus far. I taught at Granger High last fall, first period. When we saw the circumstances of the ramped up ICE activity, I lost some of my 42 students for a period of time. They did fortunately come back. We have not seen a significant drop in attendance since that time when we saw that initial ramp up. But I would expect, logically, that if we did see an increase, that we would see those challenges again, and we would again communicate with our families on the resources that are available to them. We cannot afford and provide legal advice to students or their families. We don't have the resources and we don't have the legal authority to do that. That being said, we can refer our families to outside resources if they need help and assistance, and that would be perfectly acceptable. If you have other questions about our policies or why we can't implement a law enforcement technique to secure the school if something like that were to happen, that would invariably draw more law enforcement to the property to secure to enforce the provisions of that specific emergency protocol. So we are very open to suggestions and ways we can support our students appropriately and within the confines of the law and fulfilling our legal obligations, and at the same time making sure that our schools are a safe and welcoming place. And thank you for all of you who do that each and every day. With respect to my friend Cameron, who spoke with respect to the Cypress High School classroom sizes, you are right. And we were out there just last week working through some solutions on how we can get all of our special education classes into the right size classroom space. That will all be implemented through next year. I know there were some other concerns, so I'm going to have Leslie stand up and make her way out to the hallway if there are specific questions and concerns with respect to how we're handling resources and how we're allocating those on special ed. She would be happy to visit with you further, and I would be happy to as well. But she'll make her way out there. Don't hit her on the left side, please. She was recently injured. So with respect to that, we want to listen to those concerns and make sure we're doing everything in our policy and our power with the resources we have to support our students and our teachers. That being said, Granite School District subsidizes special education at a higher rate than any other district across the state, to the tune of $11 million above and beyond resources from the state and the federal government that have recently been cut. And we are looking at more cuts because we came into this budget year with a deficit of $4 million. And those are not easy decisions. So we would appreciate the collaboration ongoing and moving forward on how we can best support our students, and more importantly, how we can best protect our employees in circumstances that are not safe. So thank you for bringing those concerns to our attention. Last but not least, I want to reiterate and be clear that this Board of Education before you and this administration, under my leadership, reduced class sizes for the first time in state history in over 20 years in Granite School District. Right? We spent $2.5 million last year as part of that tax increase that was decertified, as Michelle mentioned, to give elementary teachers the most planning time that they have ever had in the history of Granite School District. We're not planning, nor have we ever intended to reduce that commitment that we've made to you. So you have a school board up here who knows and understands the time that you need to adequately prepare. Please know that we'll continue to work through that process. I'm a little frustrated if somebody's intimating otherwise, because our commitment and our desire in the process of negotiations is never to reduce the amount of planning time that is available, especially to our elementary teachers who don't have that built into their schedule. So thank you so much for coming and being here with us tonight. Again, I'm not aware of any effort on the district's part to reduce planning time. And again, I would be frustrated if somebody's intimating otherwise. We are working through some other things that we hope will help improve instruction and provide supports for you, and we'll continue to do that regardless. So thank you again for being here tonight. We're going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of our meeting, if that's all right, Board President.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, because it's It's a fun meeting. But we ask that if you step out into the hall, that you will exit in a quiet manner. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to our consent items. This is agenda item number 8. These are consent items that we've had an opportunity to look at and to be able to ask questions of the last little while. So if there are no questions, I will entertain a motion.
Board President, given the conversation that we had during our study session earlier about the name for Wilson, I move that we accept the consent agenda with the removal of the agenda item of the name change for Wilson.
Which is 8M, just so you know. Agenda item 8M.
Agenda item 8M. Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent. Did you say sorry, Julie, to remove or to approve with that removed?
Approve with the removal of item number 8M.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the removal, with the exception of item 8M, which is the renaming of Woodrow Wilson. Is there any further discussion on this?
Just a quick comment from my end. I had some concerns on some of the land trust spending decisions, SDL electronic curriculums, the school AI contract, a couple of things on that agenda. So I support the removal of the Wilson name change at this point in time, but we'll still be voting no on the consent agenda. Thanks.
All right, any further? I just want to, just for the record, some clarification on item 8B. The purchases, there is a purchase for architectural services for the West Side Elementary. I just want to clarify that is for West Kearns Elementary. At the time, it was asked as just a general West Side Elementary because we weren't sure what was happening when it was requested. It has been clarified that it is for West Kearns. So I just want the record to reflect that. So if there's no other comments, any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. We are going to move on to our information items. No, action items, sorry. Woohoo! I was really excited. So first we have our administrative appointments and transfers. Again, we've been able to look at these and ask questions. If there's no questions, I will entertain a motion.
I move we accept the administrative appointments and transfers.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the administrative appointments and transfers. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Tyler, is it you? That's you.
Good evening to our board, our leadership. This is one of my favorite opportunities to be able to recognize some of our appointments. And I'd like to first ask Elisa Jennings in the office to stand up, and let's give her a round of applause. Elisa has been a teacher at Jackling Elementary and Benyon Junior High. She was an administrative intern at Granite Park Junior High. She's currently an assistant principal at West Kearns and South Kearns Elementary School. Those who have worked with her say Elisa's unwavering belief that every student can succeed is evident in her daily interactions. She doesn't speak about this conviction, she lives it. She excels at building robust foundational systems that guide teachers, students, and parents toward their goals. Elisa is highly skilled at navigating kind but firm conversations, maintaining focus on her mission while advocating for all stakeholders, and she leads with a calm, steady presence. We're excited to announce that Elisa will be the new principal at Fox Hills Elementary School. Congratulations. Elisa, can you have those who came with you be introduced, or can you introduce them? They came for you. Absolutely. Thank you so much. One more round of applause for Elisa. Chris Baker, can you stand up? Chris has been a high school counselor at Harriman High, Tooele High, and most recently Cypress High School. He is currently an administrative intern at Skyline High School. Those who have worked with him say Chris is very personable and approachable. At least 100 students like to give him knuckles every day. It did not take long for Chris to endear himself to the staff. In 1 year, he has made himself an invaluable member of the Skyline community, which is convenient because Chris will be the new assistant principal at Skyline High School. Congratulations, Chris. I like the hat. That's great. Can you introduce those that you brought with you? Thank you. Round of applause for Chris. Ryan, can we have you stand? Ryan Dickinson. Ryan has been a Spanish teacher at West Jordan Middle School and Cypress High School. He is currently an administrative intern at Eisenhower Junior High School. Those who have worked directly with him say Ryan has an incredible ability to connect with people and build deep, meaningful relationships. He listens with intentionality, balancing individual needs while maintaining the vision of the whole school. He has a strong understanding of effective instructional practices and works hard to improve the PLC process, leaving a lasting impression on those he serves. Ryan will be the new assistant principal at Jefferson Junior High School. Ryan, can you introduce your family and friends?
Yes, this is my wife Brianna, my oldest daughter Elizabeth, my son Lewis, my son Gordon, and my twins Lucy and Russell, and my sister Lindsay. She's a teacher at Wright Elementary.
Oh, cool. Round of applause. Those kids went through a long meeting with you. You owe them ice cream tonight. Can I have Elizabeth Coons stand? Elizabeth has been a teacher at Plymouth Elementary and Armstrong Academy and is currently an administrative intern at Jefferson Junior High. Those who have worked with her say Liz Coons creatively improves the learning environment to enhance every student's unique journey. She consistently makes difficult decisions to ensure academic and personal success for students from all walks of life. Her dedication provides a clear path for every learner to reach their full potential. Elizabeth will be the new assistant principal at Walker Elementary School. Liz, can you introduce who you brought with you?
Yes, I brought my beautiful mother with me, and especially Mr. Dan, who I've been obviously so lucky with.
We agree. Round of applause for Liz. And finally, Amy Reedford, can you stand? Amy has served as a reading interventionist and K-3 literacy coach at Vista Elementary, as well as a K-6 district literacy coach. She's also worked as a K-12 specialist in teacher onboarding and instructional coaching, and is currently an administrative intern at Westlake STEM Junior High. Go Mustangs. Those who have worked with her say Amy Reedford has a natural ability to connect with both students and staff, building trust and strong relationships that last. She works tirelessly each day, handling the demands of leadership with focus, heart, and a positive attitude. Her ability to genuinely show parents how much she cares about their child leaves a lasting impact. Amy will be the new assistant principal at Benyon and Crestview Elementary Schools. Congratulations. Amy, could you introduce who you brought with you? Which camera? Hopefully it captured that. One more round of applause for Amy. Congratulations to all those appointments, and that concludes this portion.
Thanks, Dr. Howe. All right, we are going to move on to our next action item, which is our sex education materials. And I'm looking for, who are we inviting up?
Oh, you guys don't want to stay for sex ed?
You guys don't want to stay for the sex ed?
Come on.
I thought they were here for that.
The black tracksuit and the blue.
Okay, thank you, Board President, board members. As you know, this is our second review for our sex ed instructional materials, and so it should be rather quick. I won't review all of the slides as we went into those in depth last time, but I will address a few questions you had for me from the first session and then review the comments that we received. We've already gone over the membership and responsibilities and the steps for review. Tonight, we addressed the last bullet on this slide, which is the materials being sent to you for the final approval. I took the opportunity to highlight the standards connections in our health classes, as there were some questions last time about where those fall. I won't go into detail, but you can see the parent able, as the individuals clarified, it is parent able, that's how they pronounce it. They said, but we could call it parentable if we wanted to. You can see the Health 2 standards, relationship change, family changes, and then parenting responsibilities is where those fall in the Health 2 classes. There were also several comments by board members where you wanted to draw attention to the fact that they really apply to some of our CTE courses. And so I wanted to add a slide in here to show where in CTE courses they apply to specific courses, and that's in child development and early childhood education. And so you can see those there, and how this same resource addresses those standards in those classes. We already reviewed the Building Uplifting Relationship Standards connection, as we did the consequence card activity revisions connection. So I'll move on to our 30-day public comment period. During that time, we received 8 public review comments as of April 28th, and then we have not received another since then, so since that date. I've summarized these. You did receive a copy of the specific comments in my spreadsheet that I gave you separately. 6 comments praise the curriculum's holistic focus, noting that it provides valuable tools for students beyond the biology real-world scenarios. There were 2 comments expressing concern regarding the consequence game, and those 2, sorry for those typos, but those two had kind of opposing viewpoints. One, that where the individual felt the content was just inappropriate and that we could do it without having the consequence game. The other, where they weren't happy with the fact that that the generalized scenarios, such as the belief that waiting for marriage always guarantees a better relationship. So the fact that it was based on marriage versus just sexual relationships in general. A couple suggested improvements. One comment suggested we provide more information on sexual activity. I won't go into depth on that, but you can see it there. And another, again, suggested removing the before marriage implication, since they believe that the same consequence or concern can arise after marriage. Also, during the 30-day public comment period, I just want to point out that any questions that we received that were like specifically, we received several questions that say, these aren't all the, which I just am so happy to hear that patrons are paying this much attention, but they say these aren't all the standards in the human development, under human development in the core standards, and why aren't we talking about all the materials that are associated with every standard? And I just want to bring to attention again that we only review what we're either revising or bringing up for the first time. The materials that we have currently approved address all of those other standards if we don't specifically cite them and attach them to the materials we're talking about. So I think in the future, what I may do is, when we introduce the materials to the patrons in the portal, create a little paragraph that really explains it better, so we're not getting that kind of misunderstanding that they should be seeing all of the standards addressed. And if you have any recommendations around that, I would happily consider those. And I think that's it. So if you have any questions for me, I'm here to answer those.
Do we have any questions from the board? Okay. We do have open public comment for the sex education materials and would invite anybody who would like to come up and provide public comment. Is there anybody who wants to? Okay.
I'm tempted to, but we've talked.
We have, and I do have some information for you. So I'd like to introduce you to Noelle Converse. She's the one in charge of the sex education materials, and if you'd like to speak to her after this portion, she can also help you see the rest of the sex education materials that you had questions about. Okay, with no comment, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section. And I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the sex education materials per the agenda. Oh, is it a first?
It doesn't need to, we don't have to have two.
Just one,
It's just
yeah.
one. All right, we have a motion and a second by Connie to approve the sex education materials as presented. Is there any further discussion?
Just have a comment I'd like to add real quick. I first of all appreciate your follow-up on several of the concerns that were raised. A couple of them were resolved, some things updated, and then pointing to standards is very helpful. So thank you, appreciate your efforts on that. I do have a couple of concerns with the BOR curriculum, some things that I like about it. Parent able, though, is my major concern. I just feel like it's not our role. It feels like a case of photobombing the family picture to me. And as I said last month, there's a place for parenting courses. I just do not believe it is in the government. I brought up last month as well, gave up the example about the curriculum asserting things that basically mean that tons of our patrons are classified as child abusers according to their definition. And other things like the quizzes and questions they have in there imply that just because you don't fit the exact prescribed mold that it's incorrect, even though a lot of the things in these incorrect answers are correct, like I see as totally fine methods of parenting. It's just, I don't think it's a great course. It's a very one-size-fits-all approach. I am not supportive of it. I do support the changes to the consequences card activity. I like those, but historically, this board has not been open to separating things out for separate votes, so I'm not attempting that here. I will just be a no vote all around. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim. Any other comment? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. And opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Converse. All right, we're going to move on to our information items. This is item 10A, and we're going to invite Dr. Bramble and Steve Hogan. Is Dr. Bramble? Oh, there she is.
Could I preface this?
Sure.
So what had initially been anticipated as a summer project based on the request from the Board of Education last November became clear that the board wanted that information sooner than later, and I just want to give plaudits to Dr. Bramble for getting some base information organized so quickly so that we could get this back out and to the public, and thanks for her efforts, and thanks for Steve Hogan as well. So we'll go ahead and turn the time over to them, but this is the information you requested in terms of retention of students and how well they're doing academically post-closure.
And I thank you for me, because I was the one who kind of lost my mind last month. And so I've just felt the pressure of trying to make these population decisions without having the data we requested. So probably came off a little too strong last month, but I really, when I read through this, I was just so over the top grateful that you guys were able to pull some numbers so quickly. So thank you for me on a personal note.
Thank you. I'll start out, and again, board president, vice president, board members, superintendent, superintendency, and others joining us. Again, my name is Steve Hogan. I'm the director of planning and boundaries, and I'll just recap basically what's been said. Is thanks, Karen, and that's fine. We all need a little push every so often, and that's just fine. Yes, we had been aware, and I'll tell you that I knew when you mentioned it in the March board meeting that Dr. Bramble and her team had been working on it, but I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver. We had talked about perhaps even having this mid to late summer, but here we are. So again, kudos to Dr. Bramble, Kaylee Drake especially as part of her team, and for their effort to get this sooner than later. Before an effort to potentially hire a consultant, and we all feel good about the direction we're going and knowing what's been passed. So thanks again for all those efforts. I'm going to go over really the first slide, and I really want to, and I'll interject perhaps here and there, but for the most part, I want Dr. Bramble to be able to present her and her team's work that we've discussed, of course, but it really is their work. So you can see there, simply on the left side, the schools included in this study. You'll notice not every school that has been closed in the last 10 or so years, fewer years than that, but is included. But those schools were included. If you remember, anytime we undertake a study, it gets very problematic when we get around COVID time. And things were so crazy that almost any data that we try to collect around that time is difficult. So as we looked at it, it was decided, let's stick with what we know most and stick to the last 23, 24, and 25 studies.
And I just asked, is that the reason to not study Sandberg? Okay, because Sandberg into Jacqueline was one I was kind of hoping to have numbers on, because I don't think that went nearly as well as we'd hoped. But okay, so that was right during COVID, and that's why it's not included.
I was going to say, what year was that, Karen?
20.
I thought it was before. I thought it was
I think it was 2019.
I was not on the board, and I was on the board in 2020. And it
That's
was
right.
before
Yeah,
that.
I think it was December of.
Maybe it was.
Anyway,
We could certainly go back and collect some of the data. Like we could get some retention information.
Yeah,
So we could
I'm
go
just,
back and look.
okay, I'm curious because I know that's one that the charter school was on the other side of 56. Jacqueline was a little bit further east, and I get the sense that more people went west. Anyway.
You bet.
That's a good question.
Fair enough. Again, quickly, the questions, some of the questions that we've tried to answer. Do students from closed schools remain in Granite School District after their neighborhood school closes? What impact or impacts does a school closure have on the academic performance of students who move to a new school? And also, what impact does a school closure have on sense of belonging and other student-teacher relationships? And I just want to outline very quickly and be very clear that the purpose of this study was to gather information in a descriptive format. There was no statistical method or models used necessarily. There are limitations. There really are limitations due to data constraints and the inherent difficulty of isolating the numerous variables that influence school performance. Dr. Bramble and I had several conversations about all of those variables and trying to quantify those and how we do that. And education studies in general really struggle with this idea as a whole. But just, I think, in a nutshell, I would say view this as important, good, guiding information. I think it's very useful to us, especially going into the next year, but really it's a foundational step. It's a foundational step which helps lead us to other questions and hopefully more answers as we go forward. But I think it's a great foundational step to move forward with in future studies.
All right, so our first question was, how well do we retain students in the year following school closures? So for this part, we looked at these schools that were closed, and we were looking at what happens after, the year after. So we took their enrollment at the end of the school year, when they closed, and then in the first 3 weeks of the next school year, we looked to see how many of those students showed up back in our schools. Not the school necessarily that they were assigned to go to, but any school in Granite District. So you can see here that on average, 83% of our students remained in Granite School District the year after their school's closure. There is a range here that you can see. We have a high of 88% at Orchard and 75% at Western Hills. The retention was lowest. We also looked at it at grade levels, lowest for kindergarten, and then highest for 5th and 6th grade. That we're assuming those students were already moving to a different school, so they moved into a junior high, and so we didn't see maybe the same level of retention there. Are there any questions on that? Maybe pause as we go through this.
I'll just say I'm not surprised by the Western Hills number. None of us are. We were aware of that. Again, similar perhaps to Sandburg and the uniqueness of the Western Hills closure with a brand new charter school opening down the street. This one's not a surprise.
I'm surprised it's that high, honestly. Yeah.
Right.
Can I just, go ahead, Kim.
No, sorry. I was just going to say 75%. I was going to ask how we think those numbers are. Are they good or are they bad? I mean, 75%, if we're talking a school of 300 kids, I don't remember how many Western Hills had, but that's a loss of 75 students in the transition.
Yeah, and we'll put this into some comparison in the next few slides where you can see we are a pretty mobile district, and so you have to take that into consideration. And so I think putting it into comparison with what we typically see is important. But I also think that you need to acknowledge there were other factors when Western Hills was closed that led to that number being a lower percentage.
I would agree wholeheartedly with what you said. I think we see on average, especially in higher socioeconomic areas, 25% mobility, kids permitting to other locations. So this would square along with that. In more impoverished areas, it's typically about 10% or a little less. So probably somewhere in between is probably about right, depending on where the school is located and what that poverty rate looks like and the average rate of mobility in the first place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking for is your assessment of these numbers. What do they mean? Because to me, that's still a lot. Even the 88%, if you had 300 kids, you're still talking 36 kids. So what do we expect? What's good, what's bad? So if that's coming, I will shut up now.
And we'll put that into perspective, I think, for you in some of the next slides.
I'm assuming as well, looking at that kindergarten rate, you know, if your school is closing, it's going to be far easier for you to pick up your kindergartner and go to a totally different new community school than it is if they're in 4th grade and they want to be with their friends, no matter what that means, no matter what the building looks like or how far away it is. I want to be with my friends. So is that, I mean, that's an assumption, but am I thinking about that the right way? The younger the grade, the easier it is to pull them and put them somewhere else?
Yeah, I think we could look at this and speculate a lot of different reasons for why these things might happen. And I think that's probably a good assumption, or one assumption of many that might explain that.
I just had a question on the Twin Peaks. It was at 76%. How many, I can't remember how many schools Twin Peaks got divided into. Was it 2? Do you remember, or just 1? Because that's kind of what I'm looking at is a lot of these schools got divided into 2.
Some Woodstock, I believe.
But Western Hills went all from one school to one school, and I'm wondering, did Twin Peaks also do the same? Because I'm trying to remember.
Twin Peaks is also on the board of Murray. It, again, can't prove it, but we highly suspect that there was some movement back to Murray District also.
I think when you had, this is anecdotal completely, but if we looked at Spring Lane, and Twin Peaks, which were both under 200 students at the time of their closure, Spring Lane did go entirely into to Oakwood as part of that program, and a lot of the families that were following a program, right? They were already part of Chinese immersion, whereas, as he points out, Twin Peaks had diluted as a community school already, being on the boundary and with so few students. So I think that's probably a factor, as well as being divided into two campuses.
Thanks. So I just couldn't remember for sure which one went the whole school and which one was split. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, one of the things that did impact this as we filtered a little bit with some of the data is we could see that I think Spring Lane and Mill Creek held well, probably because of the DLI programs that they both fed into, because we could see that those students definitely were retained. So this gets to that comparison piece. So we wanted to look at first, how do those retention rates after school closure compare to before school closure? So for this one, we took those schools and we said, what does that usually look like for their student population? So we took it the previous year and we said at the end of the year compared to the first 3 weeks of the next school year, how many of the students do they usually retain? So that's what you're seeing on that left side. And then we compared it to this retention after the closure. So you can see in the case of Orchard where prior to closure, they were retaining 94% of their students. Then after the closure, it was 88%. Redwood stayed about the same. Mill Creek dropped slightly. Spring Lane stayed about the same. And here we have that Twin Peaks and Western Hills effect that I think we talked about already. Perhaps the proximity to Murray for Twin Peaks, and then the opening of the charter school in the Western Hills boundary.
This is not up there. I'm double checking. The Dos Mundos, that whole area, do we have any idea how that, did we retain those students pretty much in our district, within our district, even though closed a school and then opened a school, but do you know what I mean?
That's a great question. We did not look.
You didn't look at that? Okay. I just am curious.
I think it's probably a little fresh. Anecdotally, it would appear that Valley Crest, now Dos Mundos enrollment has increased, but we obviously saw commensurate declines at some of the other schools as a result. Yeah, Monroe and Hillsdale in particular.
I just wondered if that impacted the surrounding schools and what that impact was, and if it has created a problem in those ones.
We did see an increase in out of new enrollment. I know that he was able to, by expanding the bus offerings, we actually increased the number of stops that helped us retain some new students that had come back to Granite School District. So at a higher rate that probably would not have come back to, say, Valley Crest or another traditional school. But
So that's the good news, but I don't know if you read in the agenda, if you caught it, but like Hillsdale doesn't even have parents to, they don't have enough parents to form a community council in that school, so they're asking for the exception when that happens. But so when I read that, I was like, that is a consequence of the change that we made, unfortunately.
All right, I just wondered, sorry, because I didn't see it on the slides. So.
No, that's a great thing we could also look into. So our next slide then moves to that longitudinal data on mobility that we talked about, that you have to look at this retention idea in this in a similar way as you're putting it into context, right? So here, what you're seeing on that top graph is if you look at a cohort of students in 2022, we take those same students and we say in 2023, that light blue bar, how many of those students enrolled in our Granite District schools that following year? So we had 92%. And then that same group, we look to see the following year, 2024, how many of them are still with us in those first 3 weeks of 2024. And there we dropped to 83%. And then the following year, 2024, same group of kids, now we have 76% of them, that red bar. So this really just speaks to the mobility of our district, right? We've got kids that are moving around and moving out of our district. You're going to see that same data then for the school year 23, 24, and then that last one is 25, and the number of kids that showed up at the beginning of this school year in 2026. Now, comparing that to what we saw at our schools that close, we can, I think, put that into a little bit of a comparison too, where we're looking longitudinally at what we saw for their retention or the mobility of those student groups as they move to a new school. And for the most part, they seem to follow a similar path. The only difference that I noted here was Western Hills. While the first year they dropped quite a bit to 75%, the following year those students stayed with Granite District at a higher level than we would typically see, just looking at percentages. Any questions or clarifications on this one? Okay. So the next set of slides is going to look at that impact on academic performance that we wanted to look at. And here we looked at RISE proficiency. And the way we looked at this is we took the students who had their overall proficiencies in 3rd and 4th grade in that pre-closure year. And then we looked at those same students who we still had in our schools in 4th and 5th grade, post-closure. And we looked to see, is there a difference in their proficiency rates? Now here, I think if I were looking at this, what I would want to see is that we don't see a noticeable drop, that we're seeing that they're maintaining about where they were, and that's really what I can see here too. Our ELA went from 28% pre-closure, so same students, and then the next year when we followed them to their new school, they had a 31.6% proficiency in ELA. Math was 27 and then went to 28. Now for the comparison piece, where you're looking at the district overall, we tried to make sure we were comparing the same thing. And so the way I would read this is in those school years, 22, 23, and 24, because those are the school years we're talking about inclusively, that we grouped all together for our closure data, so we had enough students to make it make sense. But in order to look at those 3 school years, we separated them out in the comparison piece. And so what I would be looking at there is when you look at the ELA percent proficient, those are going to look different than if you're looking at our regular district percent proficiencies, because what we did is we took students who in that 2022 school year were 4th and 5th grade students, but we also had them in 3rd and 4th grade. And we wanted to see what their proficiency was. Now this gets a little bit into the weeds, and so I think if you're looking at it from a wide angle lens, I would say we're looking at that being a pretty stable percentage around 35, 36, 35%. And I would compare that to that post-closure 31.6% if we wanted to look at a comparison. That's what I would compare. So here you can see the math is a little bit lower. That just might be a reflection of the variability that we see across our district with proficiency scores. And this one, I'm going to note too that it's limited to students from Mill Creek, Spring Lane, Western Hills, and Twin Peaks. We don't yet have data from Orchard and Redwood because we're not done with those tests yet. And as Steve mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be some ongoing work. This is a really kind of a cool data set that we're going to add to and continue to look at. And it's a nice way to look at it initially. Typically, you're going to look at this level of descriptive data, and then it's going to lead to other questions that you're going to have where you want to dig in a little deeper. But for now, this is a really nice way to look, I think, at what does it look like generally for our students. All right. So in addition to proficiency, we also look at growth. So that's measured by this RISE MGP. Now, this surprised us, and I think it's a really interesting result where we had a jump from our pre-closure MGP In ELA, it went from 43. Post-closure, following again those same students in a new Granite School District school, they were at an MGP of 60. In math, we saw a similar jump. Now, this could be an anomaly in the data, and I think that when we add the data from this next year, it may change and look a little different, but this one was a surprise.
So could this go back? I mean, I know when we're talking small school concerns, and I think we almost have that presentation memorized, but it's been a minute since I've seen it, but we talk about, part of the small school concerns is that very thing, is they're not getting the quality instruction because they're either dealing with split classes or really high numbers in their class and burnout teachers because teachers don't have the ability to share that workload across their grade because they are the only second grade teacher, all those concerns. This is all anecdotal at this point because it's 1 year, it's a single snap. Well, it is data, so it's not anecdotal, but the assumptions are, right? And so I'm sitting here thinking, hey, you know what, maybe this actually backs up what we're saying is if these kids go into a school with a robust second grade team that has 3 to 4 teachers in there and they're sharing the workload and their classes are more balanced, my hope in this data is that it's reflective of what we've been saying all along, that kids will have a better quality education in a school with a higher population so that those small school concerns can go away. That's the whole goal. That's the reason I entertain looking at some small schools and consolidations in the first place. So when I saw this slide, I was actually pretty happy because I thought, hey, maybe we really are onto something here. And so I'm excited to kind of see what the next little round brings to see if that data holds up or if it truly is an anomaly.
We'll see.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Superintendent. I was just going to say, I agree. I think if nothing else, I expected a jump. I expected an increase. But when I saw this, I called and says, hey, is that right? That seems a lot higher than even we expected. So even if it is an anomaly, I'll be surprised, though, if it's still not a significant enough increase for us to feel good about, to give us a level of confidence to move forward. And that really was the base of what we were looking for, right?
Remind me, a good growth score is considered 70 plus. An average growth score is in the 40s, so 60 is, I want to make sure everybody here knows that 60 is really awesome.
Yeah, that's what I was.
That's in context. Yeah, that's a high growth score.
I wanted to articulate that a 40 is pretty decent, and a 60 is exceptional. 70 is bonus money worthy, which is why we do it. 29 is not good. 50 is awesome. Like it went from pretty good, not good to awesome, like that, and that's real growth that those kids experienced.
Okay. We also looked at Acadian's reading and Acadian's math. So we're going to tackle Acadian's reading first. And in Acadian's reading, we get both that idea of proficiency, which we measure with at benchmark or above, and growth, which we measure with our pathway of progress, or POP. And with this, we took our K2 students, and again, we're looking at cohort groups, right? So K2 students, and we followed those same students into that next school year and looked at their first through third grade performance. So here, we also saw some growth from pre-closure to post-closure. So our at or above benchmark group went from 46% to 56%, and the growth went from 55% at or typical growth to 68% at or above typical growth.
I think I know this has kind of been articulated a little bit already, but I just want to make sure that we understand these are pretty good kids, and these are great teachers, and this is not necessarily, the difference that we're seeing isn't necessarily because they were bad teachers. Those were good schools. And it just shows that this is really what we're talking about as far as like what Karen said. And I don't want people to think, well, we closed the school because they were bad teachers. That's not why.
those teachers are exemplary. They were doing the best that they could with what they had. And that's what should be emphasized, is that they were working their butts off.
Agreed.
But now this takes that to the next level and is able to help them. So I just want to make sure.
It really shows the difference between what a person can do, a great teacher can do when they're supported versus non-supported, right? And I mean that in resources, because we all support them, but with the resources and the backing.
We knew what you meant, but thanks for the clarification.
All right, Acadians math. Here we saw a little bit of a difference in terms of a decrease instead. So we went from a pre-closure of 52% to post-closure 48% in their at or above benchmark. And then our growth was 64 to 67% in post-closure. And again, those are, again, if you're looking at, are they maintaining at least where they were? I think that could be a conclusion that you could draw. We're not seeing significant declines in their academic performance after we move them to a new school. All right, the last two areas that we looked at were this idea of teacher-student relationships as well as sense of belonging. So we measured this through the Panorama Survey data. And what we're looking at is same kind of an idea where we looked at pre-closure and post-closure, following the same students. In the fall of, we have this survey in the fall and the spring. So in the fall, in pre-closure, with the student-teacher relationships with this group of students, we had 66% that were giving a positive, favorable response to that student-teacher relationship area of the survey. In the spring, that dropped to 64%. And then we shifted them to a new school. And in the fall, they were at 70% in their student-teacher relationship positive comment or positive, favorable. And then in the spring, we dropped to 68%. For a comparison here, we pulled the district data for those same grade levels to look at what that looks like. And it kind of does an opposite trend. So we have a fall that is lower than and a spring that jumps up. Now, we might say maybe these students in their school that was going to be closed were not feeling as connected or had a relationship with their teacher in that spring. That could be an explanation for why that dropped. And then in our post-closure, again, we have a slight downward trend in the spring, whereas the district data goes slightly up. And this one, this one just includes Orchard, Redwood, and Western Hills. We don't have Spring Lane, Mill Creek, or Twin Peaks. And here we're dealing with a change in where we have data sources, right? We didn't have Panorama to be able to compare those other schools that closed earlier. So it's based on what data we have available to us. The next one is our sense of belonging. And here, again, looking at pre-closure and post-closure, we're showing when those students went to their new school, their sense of belonging dropped, and then it dropped again in the spring. I think this probably helps us look at, are there things that we could be doing to help our students feel like they're belonging in their new school? And maybe this isn't a real surprise, because I think it does take some adjustment time. And in comparison to how the district does overall, it's slightly lower. Questions on this?
So my takeaways from this is that there has been, at least early on here, data that shows that this is having that school right-sizing schools is having a positive impact on student achievement. Would you agree that that's what this data is showing?
I think we could say
Positive or
that,
neutral?
yes, as we have closed schools, we have seen that it hasn't negatively impacted their academic performance or the retention of students in our district.
Would you say that it has improved? Maybe this much. Too early to tell.
It's too early to tell. I think we need some more data for these schools. I think you could say we had some increases, but it's relatively still a small sample size, and so I'd be interested to see what this next end of the year brings, and we can bring a few more into this. But I think it's good. A good piece of information for you as a board to look at as you're making decisions about the impacts that you have on students when we close our schools.
My other takeaway from this is basically this slide, which is that we need to be very serious about the integration process. And part of that comes from the first few slides where we show that the decline. I mean, I just kind of ran my numbers here, ran the data that you had, and it showed that if you averaged all the students that we retained after 1 year, we had a 17% decline from closing schools the year following a school, which is higher than our district decline. And so to me, that means that we are losing more students by closing schools. And I mean, maybe we need to check and I'm just up here while you're talking, like listening and crunching numbers, but it looks to me like we are losing more students by closing schools than we are by keeping the schools, the small schools intact, which I guess we don't actually know how many students would have left
I was going to say,
in the
we don't
small
know
school
that, because
situation.
if we had left them where they are and they get below 200, then how many would have left anyway?
That's
I was
true.
gonna say, that's where the Sandberg numbers would be very helpful, because I think Sandberg got to that point, Karen can speak to that more, that there were families leaving because it was so small. And so I don't know that that's an accurate representation. It might be, I think some of your schools, Julie, that's fair to say that they're not leaving, even though they are small and they're facing some of those things. But I know there are schools out there that are, so.
Well, yeah, particularly with Sandberg, I heard that a lot. I was hearing concerns at Sandberg for years and years, and we did have, it breaks your heart when you have solid families in a community, and they're calling and saying, why isn't this being resolved? Or this is what's happening in the school, and I don't agree with this. And then this happened to 3 Rockstar families, and they all special permitted to Armstrong. And they all left. That was 12 kids gone, but it was 12 high performing. They had the parent volunteers there, and then it was amazing the year from 1 year to the next year to lose those 3 families. Just the different feel that really the whole school had in that they were just missed. It was very, the parents weren't there, and then you just saw a negative trajectory. And so if we hadn't have stepped into there, I think they would have got real small.
Well, I don't mean to bring that up to say it's a bad idea to close schools. That's not actually what I'm trying to say. What I do think we need to say is, okay, we need to intervene on that 17%. We need to figure out how to retain those. How do we capture that 17% back? Because that's a huge opportunity right there. And that is, in my company, if I'm losing 17% of my customers, I am like having a flying fit.
I'll add, Julie, sorry, Dr. Brum.
That's
in my
not okay
conversations around the country, I'm hearing similar things. Now, they are just starting. I had a meeting with several last week and told them a little bit about our study, but they say they feel, they anticipate they would see similar things. One of those is, put it this way, when they close a school, it's a 1 step back, 3 steps forward. They typically all see that reduction first year, maybe even a second year. But going forward, they recoup those and then some, and the numbers on almost every variable continue to go up. And so I always feel a little better, at least that's some other data points from around the country, not just us, not just in our state, but to compare to, and they're saying similar things. And so none of us want to lose any, right? If it's 17%, we want it to be +7 or +17, but there are some realities that we're dealing with, all of us. It's not just the closure, but what else is happening at the same time.
Right. We don't know why they're leaving either, because we're very mobile, as I said. So I don't think you can tease that out of this without, they're leaving for lots of different reasons, not just because their school closed, which is why I think it's important to put it in context of the mobility that we have.
But, I mean, 17% is higher than our normal mobility. What's our mobility rate at? What percent of our students move around from one? I think that's the data that I want to understand. I want to understand,
Isn't that back on that slide?
So going back to
truly-
slide 5.
Yeah, look at that slide.
Okay, I didn't understand this slide very well. I think that's probably my problem. I was like, I still don't get it.
So you're right. When
an
there's
English
school
teacher.
closure, you can see a higher than average than our normal attrition that we see. So it's not a full 17%, but we can attribute some of that to probably just the district-wide average of mobility.
Can I just have you look at Douglas Orchard? Pre-closure, 94%. Post-closure, 88%. So there we lost 6%. Pre-closure at Mill Creek, 85, and then we kept them 85. Obviously, if we go over to Western Hills, where we know there were some different things going on, we went from 97 to 75, which is, it's a lot, but we know that there's something different happened there.
Yeah, but Mill Creek has DLI. Those DLI kids are not going to change schools. I mean, they're not going to leave the school and lose their program. They're going to change schools happily wherever that DLI. Well, maybe not happily, but DLI. They're going to follow their program.
Yeah,
And I agree. Go ahead, because I know that one of the reasons Orchard was so worried about when their closure study was happening is they didn't have a program to entice students to stay with. And so I know Western Hills and Orchard, that was a big issue, is they were looking for programming too. And I guess our students probably do stay for programming more often than we think, because I think sometimes we look at programming as hurtful in some of our schools, but I think it actually retains some of our students too. So we have to be really careful that we're not like just discounting that programming is making our decline. So,
That's why Spring Lane did
And
too.
this
Yep.
is what we meant by being a snapshot and very descriptive and generalized. This gives us all of these things you're bringing up now for future studies to say, okay, really, what was it? Was it just a school closure? Let's talk about the other variables it could have been and try to isolate those and figure out what it was. So that's, these things will take a little time.
But I think what I can tell that I, tonight, am putting my finger on a district-wide possible culture thing that's bugging me, because this is exactly where I was earlier today, and that is, okay, here's our problem. We accept it's a problem. We see there are things that are out of our control. Well, okay, what's in our control and what are we going to do about it? That's actually the conversation I want to have. I think it's important to be aware of these things that we can't control, but I want to see what is the action item that we're going to take on the things that we can control, and what are the new things that we're going to try. And I think it's very important that we spend our time in the place where we can actually impact our kids, because those things we can't do anything about all those things, but I'm not willing to accept that none of this is in my control, you know? And so when it comes to, okay, well, we lose some of our kids when we close a school, what are the action steps that we're gonna take in order to try to retain more of them, regardless of the other economic forces going on, right? So I can tell, looking at my superintendent, that I'm feeling a cultural angst here.
And I would agree with you, and I share the concern. So we developed a process after going through a couple of closures that, as chief of staff, I managed and oversaw a transition committee. And I will tell you, as much support as we provided that committee, the key variable was the warmth and love and strength of the incoming principal. And so they could check off the list all of the activities that will help ensure a smooth transition. But, you know, some of our principals are a little more skilled at creating that warm and welcoming environment, and others are a little bit more on the academic side and have their strengths in other places. And so, again, those supports are there. We've done it well and we've done it poorly. And I think actually bringing Jen Bodell into that process is actually going to benefit us long-term because she understands what it takes to help us be successful in these types of transitions.
But Ben, when I have somebody who I understand their strengths and their weaknesses, and the weakness is the key thing that I need, you better believe I'm bringing in somebody else to help. Not replacing them. I'm bringing in maybe my parent support person and saying, look, it's your thing right here, right now, because we need backup.
Can I swear in this meeting? Darn right. Now that I'm superintendent, you're going to know that that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Julie, I'm going to bring you back to this slide too, so you can kind of look at that loss that you're talking about. Because if you look at what we typically see in the district, that 22 cohort group, we lost 16% of them over 3 years, right? We're looking at the same group of kids. They leave for a variety of reasons. They go to another state. They're leaving for a variety of reasons. That's our typical mobility. Now, if you look at Mill Creek, they went from 85% to 72%. That was 13%. They lost less of a percentage than we saw in the district overall. So we're really not seeing a greater percent of our kids that we're losing because of school closures. I think I can make that statement based on what I'm seeing here, that we're not losing more kids. We typically see that with the mobility in our school district as a whole.
I think that I thought that those kids were just moving in that mobility within the district.
No. These are the kids that are still showing up in our district schools.
So over the district, this is not just showing kids that move, it's showing kids who move out of or who leave the district.
Leave the district entirely.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my disconnect. Okay, thanks.
Yes. The other thing I want to mention that I
still stand by everything I said earlier, though.
The other thing I want to make sure that I mention is this sense of belonging was an interesting one because it's really variable by the school. When I first shared this data with Mitch and Ben, this looked different. And we added other schools in, and it changed. And so it's sort of flattened out, but there's some schools that really do a good job with this, and their kids actually, in fact, we looked at that and said, whoa, that school must have really welcomed those kids in because their sense of belonging shot up in their new school. So there was quite a bit of variability in that one that is not, you can't see it in that data, it sort of flattens out. So that's another, I think, important piece to mention.
And I say this completely anecdotally, I think we're getting better at it as time moves on because we have recognized where the key variables are. So that's not to say we're perfect.
And by the way, since we created that committee, we have not had a school closure to utilize the transition team that we created.
We'll get there, Julie. We'll get there.
Yeah. I'm just saying in defense of we actually have put together something really great. We just haven't been able to use it yet.
Kim had a comment. No? Okay.
Well, I have just waiting for everyone else to give their discussion in, but I was just wanting to say thank you because I think this is really good data. I really appreciate what you've put together. Thank you.
And I want to echo that, and I hope that we continue to gather this data because I think it will be helpful as we move forward. We're going to have to do this again and again.
I'm particularly excited about looking at Redwood and Orchard data, post-closure academic data. When do you think we would be able to, the soonest we could look at that? Is that November or next January?
No, we should have it earlier than that because we're not doing any new standard setting with our end-of-level data, so we should be able to pull that this summer.
Okay. So maybe we could do an update in a study session in August or September, perhaps, or an admin report.
Yep.
So you don't have to stay till 9:30 at night? Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Great job.
It's Clark's fault.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. I am going to afford a personal privilege to Superintendent Horsley per his request.
I want to welcome to our meeting, thank you for the moment of personal privilege, Senator Dan McKay. He drove all the way from Utah County, which you can imagine is quite a feat at this time of evening. So he's just barely getting here with us, but we're excited to recognize him this evening. I want to let you know that when we did this recognition earlier for Senator Weiler, he was here. This whole room was packed. They were all here for you. And just kidding. No, we had a lively discussion, a lot of other things going on, but people haven't stuck around for the really good stuff, right? But at this point in time, I just tell a brief story about Senator McKay. Senator McKay came to us as a school district with a problem and said, how can we work to fix this problem? And it was in relation to juvenile justice and concerns with student safety. And he worked diligently with us for the entire past year on this key legislation, and then through the session and the ups and downs and the challenges that come with competing bills, managed to help get that legislation passed, and it is indeed going to help make our schools a safer place. And so that's why we're recognizing Senator Dan McKay as one of our Granite School District 2026 legislative champions.
Yeah, really quickly. It's interesting. I'm glad I got here when I did because it was interesting to watch the challenges that you're struggling with. They're different all over the state, and I end up getting to go to school board meetings for different reasons. Usually they're truth and taxation hearings. Like a weirdo, I like to go to those meetings and play and listen to the concerns of residents about property tax and some of those issues, and listen to the concerns of the boards as they try and balance those interests as well. And I just, it's been a while since I've been to a Granite meeting. I was just trying to remember if it was 2019 or it was 2019, I think was the last one I was here for. But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to see the different challenges that you're dealing with and hear the board working hard to try and meet the needs of students throughout the state. And I want to thank Superintendent Horsley. Honestly, he is known as being a high caliber and integrity-filled broker on the Hill. And we love to work with Ben on lots of issues, and sometimes we agree. So I love those times. And when we don't, it's always a great opportunity, usually for us to be educated on how things can be done better or different. And I always appreciate Ben's approach to that respect. So I will just ask that, thank you for letting him come up to the Hill. I know that probably adds to the business of his responsibilities, but he is a valued voice for education on the Hill. So thank you, Ben. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah? Okay. Come on, touch.
I'm not worth looking at the picture, so.
Yeah, you're the guy of honor.
I am not going to be the only one in the front, so you guys switch it.
I can go on a meeting.
It's going taller than
We'll squish.
That'll be fine. All right, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. That's good.
You're that guy.
Oh, here we go. All right. Thank you so much, Senator, for being here. We're going to go ahead and move on to our, excuse me, our first reading on our fiscal policy manual. We're going to invite Doug Larson up.
Board members, our first policy tonight is a first reading. This is section 12 of our fiscal policy manual. It's collection of accounts receivable and other debts. You might recall that we recently updated this policy. We updated it with a variety of procedural measures in order to collect debt, but one of the things that we neglected was to remove remove a section that indicates that outstanding debt will affect whether a student can participate in graduation. It was the superintendent's desire to address that oversight, and we have done so in this policy. And based on suggestions from law and policy, we also included in there some language that would require in our letter to parents some instructions on how to apply for fee waivers. This policy was modified within the past year, and so according to Article D or 2D of our policies, we need to have a vote first, and it has to be passed by at least 5 board members to approve reopening this policy for further accommodation or for further modification, excuse me. So before you get to the substantive portion, I think we need to do the procedural portion.
Could I speak to that? I think this is important because this isn't a portion of the policy that has not been enforced in recent history as far as I can tell. And so frankly, you'd be hard pressed to go back in the last 20 years and find a principal who's not allowed a student to walk despite perhaps having student lunch debt. Because ultimately that is not the responsibility of the student. And so I would highly encourage the board to take up this issue and let's get this policy cleaned up the way it should be in practice.
So this is my question. Do we need to have a formal vote, or can I just ask if there's any objection to bringing this policy back?
I don't think, either way. This is not something that is required in the policy in Article D2 to have a formal vote. So as long as we have 5 board members who are willing, then we can move on to the action
I can just do a
item.
quick motion. It'll take 10 seconds.
Go ahead.
So I move that we reopen for further modifications, the fiscal policy manual, section 12.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to reopen the fiscal policy manual, section 12, for modifications. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, go for it, Doug.
Now can I move to,
Yeah, the next thing would be a motion on the substance of the policy.
We understand, everybody's understanding what the substance is. Okay, I think we talked to everybody, but I just want to make sure. Okay, go ahead, Karen. Are you going to do it?
I move to approve the fiscal policy manual, section 12, with the changes surrounding the, do I have to say the changes?
No.
Or just as is presented currently?
As presented.
As
yeah.
a first
So
reading.
I retract that. So just, but it still is a first reading, right?
Correct.
So I move that we approve the fiscal policy manual, section 12, as a first reading.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Fiscal Policy Manual, Section 12, as a first reading, as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Great, we have one second reading tonight. This is Article 6B5. This is the Audit Committee and Internal Auditing Policy. Again, this policy was created out of whole cloth in order to help us to comply with R277113 in Utah Administrative Code. It basically indicates that it outlines the audit committee duties and responsibilities and gives directions for engaging with external auditors and requirements for training. So those are the reasons for the policy. If you have any questions about the specifics of the policy, I'd be happy to respond.
Remind me, Doug, I think I had stepped out during this one. Were there any changes to this one, bringing it back as a second reading?
I apologize for not saying so. No, there were no changes from law and policy or from any of our other stakeholders.
The first reading, okay. Any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept Article 6B5, Audit Committee and Internal Auditing as final second reading.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Article 6B5, Audit Committee and Internal Auditing as a second and final reading. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
I'm going to be very brief in my report. Had a couple of already previously mentioned activities, so I'm not going to rehash those, but Excel dinner was, as always, excellent. I've been completing and starting 30-year recognitions and will continue to do those. It's always great to go out and recognize teachers. I wanted to recognize Terry, and now I can't think of her last name. It starts with a P, at Benyon Elementary, has been teaching for us for 46 years. 46 years. She's the first person I met who started teaching when she was just 6 years old. It's quite remarkable. She actually started when she was 22 and just loves it. And in speaking with her principal, she talked about how she's still learning and trying to grow. She went through coaching cycles this year to try and improve her instruction for second grade. So in addition at Benyon to doing three 30-year recognitions, we also got to recognize her for her 46 years. There are only 10, I went and checked this out, there's only 10 other employees in the district who have 40+ years of service. One's a bus driver in our maintenance, a couple of those individuals, and a para. We do have one paraprofessional at Walker we recognized 2 years ago for working 50 years. She's now at 52, so she may be around longer than most of us. We'll have to see, but a huge shout out to those individuals. And again, we completed the last of our stakeholder meetings with our school community council members. So just a thank you to those school community council members who were willing to show up at 7 in the morning or late in the afternoon and talk about their network concerns. We got a lot of things accomplished and acknowledged, and things that we need to resolve and work on and better support. And last but not least, in addition to this great group that we see before us, I see my favorite government teacher in the back there, Ms. Jindil. So thanks for sticking around to the bitter end. You're a real champ today. So thank you again for all the great work of our teachers and our employees.
Julie?
We had to cancel our district community council meeting this month, and so our next one will be in the fall. On the evaluation committee, we have just finished evaluating the business administrator, which we will present that evaluation this month. And then we begin, our next evaluation will be a board self-evaluation in July, which I would think we would probably discuss at our retreat, which is forthcoming. So, and I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Julie.
Kim? I have, my next meeting's only next week, so I have nothing to report this month.
Okay, so USBA, just a couple of things. We have a USBA website, and Ryan Despain is the one that's doing it. So if there's items that could go onto that website, they would love some social media from each district as to what's happening. And then, so if you have any ideas for what you would like to learn at the district January meetings, they are eager to have you give some ideas to them. So we have the new board member institute in December, so as we'll give dates and have people go to that.
Looking at a few of you out there.
So we also, we've always had the member master board certification, and they're redoing all of that, and there's some really cute, what do we call them? Videos for the for each of the different great things we need. So, and if you have any questions for the pre-delegate assembly for the legislators that are coming, I don't know who they are. Do you know?
When
Do you
is
know
the-
yet? That's June 5th, Friday night, and the 6th, Saturday, for the delegate assembly. It's at Canyon's main office thing on, is it 94th South, just behind Larry H. Miller's stuff. I don't know. Just east of that.
Just as
Where
a
they
reminder,
usually have
is
it, correct?
Kim,
Yeah.
are you one of our delegates? I can't remember. Who's our delegate?
Everyone's a delegate.
No, but didn't we have two?
Yeah,
The rest of
but
us are
any of
alternates.
us can come, yeah, there's juice.
I was this year.
But
I don't know. It
I
doesn't
have
change,
the
right?
list
January.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yes, I
And
don't think it changes, so I think you're still,
that's all.
be aware. If you can't go, let us know.
I think it would be great if we could, Ben or maybe Stacy, someone could reach out to our candidates and let them know about that new board member training so that they at least have it on their,
December.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the date,
Oh,
but we've got time, it's December.
Todd knows. Connie and I spent a good weekend in St. George with all the other board members from around the state. It was a great time. We learned a lot.
December 5th.
Do you have a time and a locale?
It's usually,
It's in Provo, Marriott.
wow.
It's central, Nicole. Provo Central. Ish.
Marriott, though.
Anyway.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. We did not meet as budget committee this month, so I have nothing to report for that. And I think we have graduations figured out. Everyone has graduations. I know there's a couple of us attending several schools, and so I've already had a couple reach out and see who's speaking. So make sure you're contacting your schools. And then Nicole and I will get a board retreat date ASAP to you guys. So that's all. Thanks.
Benefits Committee hasn't met since our last meeting. They do meet Monday, according to my calendar. I will not be able to attend, however. But I just wanted to highlight our mammogram bus that came in April, and it was highly successful. And so those are just, we're always looking for ways to kind of be out on the front of prevention instead of, I mean, obviously we're there for treatment as well, but if you can prevent a bigger problem, then we're going to jump on that. And so that was pretty successful. So I just want to report that out.
Thanks, Karen.
Can I just say our delegates are Chris and Clark.
Okay. Never mind. I thought it was you.
For ours, I just wanted to make you all aware that we did have land policy in addition to the 2 policies that we passed today, or did a first reading on today. We did also have a policy come before us. It's a new policy, Article 5C18, which is reporting and resolving school community concerns. And we talked about that quite in depth. It just goes into how we resolve concerns within the district and the kind of the procedural, maybe not as much the procedural, but as kind of the role of everybody, and also then hands it off to, we have a memorandum that will go along with that. It didn't come out for a first reading because we did have a few things that we wanted to look at on that. But look for that, please, and give us your feedback as that comes out. I believe we don't have law and policy this month, but we'll have one, I believe, next month after that. So, but it's a good, it was a robust conversation and a good conversation to have about that. So, and on Clark's behalf, we did have an audit committee meeting. And there were some things that came out of that, but I think we're all aware of that. So if you're not, get with Karen. I'm gonna volunteer Karen. But other than that, I think we're good. So having reached the end of our agenda, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.